Hellmaster EX. This award-winning system features the first single-engine joystick with digital electric steering and new autopilot capability. See Hellmaster EX in action at a Yamaha Outboard dealer or visit YamahaOutboards.com.
Dave Anderson here with the Fisherman magazine. It's January 2nd. These are your headlines. First and foremost, Happy New Year from all of us here at the Fisherman magazine. Moving over to the fishing side of things, we've been seeing ice fishing firing up in interior New England. We've been seeing really good holdover striped bass fishing in several estuaries, and the trout fishing has been exceptional across pretty much all of southern New England. Stay tuned for all that and more on this week's New England Fishing Forecast.
The fishing news is sponsored by these fine partners.
Before we begin, we've got a few news items for you guys. First one, I just want to remind you that Wachusett Reservoir is now closed to fishing, closed on December 31st, so the season is over there and we won't be able to fish Wachusett again until April. But if you've got lake trout fever, there are a few other options, and I'll talk about those more in Massachusetts, in the Massachusetts segment of this video. But I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that up front. Cannot fish Wachusett Reservoir anymore until the springtime. Next up, let's check in with Jenni Ackerman. Here's her latest installment of Open Boat.
Hey everyone, welcome to this week's Open Boat. And you might be wondering why I'm in bibs and foul weather gear. Well, it's time to pack up the surf rods and move on to either winter hibernation, or if you're like me, we're going on the boat. We're going blackfishing. It's the winter, let's go. But today's Open Boat, I want to talk about a little fall run shutdown for the season, some tips and tricks to prep your gear for the spring run. Starting off with proper storage. Never want to leave your stuff just like thrown in the back of your truck or in a storage bin. With my waders and stuff, I hang them up so they can air out and everything. And another important thing with the winter is checking your waders for leaks. If you suspect during the fall run season you have a leak in your waders, my favorite way to find them is, you can usually pinpoint where the leak is based off of where your sweatpants are wet. But you take a flashlight and you put them on the inside of your waders and you shine out, and you can usually find that little pinhole leak. So patch your waders for the winter season. Let them just sit somewhere and hang out, and they're good to go for the spring. Moving on to your rods and reels. During the winter, it's really good to check your rod's guides for any potential cracks in that ceramic ring. You do not want to be losing your plugs during the spring on your first cast, especially when there's bunker around and you're throwing those big, expensive custom metal lips. So you can take an X-Acto knife or a blade of any kind and just run it on the inside of the guide itself. And if it catches, then you have a chipped guide. And same thing with reels. If you can repair it yourself, that's great. Always service your reels. Make sure you know what you're doing. There's tons of videos online and blueprints you can follow, but if you don't, rod and reel repairs. A lot of local tackle shops will service your rod and reels for you. So get those in to your local tackle shops sooner than later so you can have your gear back for the spring run season. Now, with your plugs, if you have a lot of old reliable plugs that you fish in the fall and also in the spring, you're gonna wanna check them out. Check their hooks, make sure the hooks are still good. Even if there's like a little bit of rust on them, I'll literally swap out my hooks. Check the eyelets and everything, make sure there's no cracks in the plug itself. You can always hopefully replace it for the spring, but just make sure everything is good to go. And last but not least, one thing I like to do when I don't need to service a reel is when my rods are just laid back here for storage, loosen your drag. A lot of people will leave their drag tight on a reel, and for that reel to be sitting like that for such a long time, like months, it can really just, like, imagine like if you constantly like gritted down on your teeth like this and you did that for months on end. That's gonna screw up your entire face. It's gonna hurt and everything. So that's what your reel on tight drag is doing, just sitting there, not putting in its work. So loosen the drag, let it chill out, like, like relax your face, like don't have it super duper tight. when it's not in use. But remember for the spring run, when you go out, tighten your drag so you don't lose a fish. Always remember to do that. That's very important. So yeah, those are just some quick little tips for the fall run shutdown, prepping for the spring. So hopefully you guys all had a really good fall run season. I know it wasn't as, picturesque as we always want it to be. There was a lot of trial and error and finicky bites, but we made it work. So keep an eye out for the Surfcasters Challenge too. If you guys participated, I just released one where it's your favorite lure. So if you have a lure or like a fish you caught this past season or even the season beforehand, I don't mind, that you caught on your favorite lure, like go back in your camera roll and shoot me an email and send it to me to be featured. Those are gonna be coming up. And I look forward to future open boats in the new year. Happy New Year also, everyone. And Merry Christmas. Open boats in the future are gonna be great. We've been trucking along here. This is the second New Year's Eve message I sent to you guys for open boat. So thank you guys all for watching and leaving comments and emailing me and like telling me at the shows, what you like, everything like that. And I look forward to seeing you guys at the show season, or maybe you'll see me out there blackfishing. I know I'm gonna be doing a lot of that in the coming months. So I'll see you guys. Prep up for the winter, get ready for hibernation if you're not fishing, and let's get ready for some spring run fishing. I'll see you guys on next week's open boat.
Announcing new dates for the New England Boat Show, January 8th through the 12th. Come see 18 Grady White models on display and take advantage of special factory incentives. We look forward to seeing you there.
Last thing, of course, is the giveaway, which is ongoing. This one wraps up on January 29th. We're going to give away a flat glide needlefish made by me, and we're going to give away some NLBN paddle tails. Not a ton of photos coming in, so you got a pretty good shot. If you can get a nice fish and take a nice photo, remember the photo has to show the angler holding the fish. And outside of that, you can catch it down in Key West, you can catch it in the river behind your house. Doesn't matter to me. Just got to show the angler holding the fish, and it's got to be sent to me at danderson@thefisherman.com or texted to the number on the screen with all the pertinent details, like the name of the angler, where the fish was caught, how big it was, stuff like that. We'll get you in the contest. We'll probably get you in the reports, and maybe even get you in the magazine. And if you're lucky, you might even win. Moving over to the reports now, I've seen a lot of ice fishing content coming out of Maine, New Hampshire, and Vermont. It seems like most of the safe ice is 20 to 30 miles inland from the coast, so that's something you may want to keep in mind if you're going to take a ride. But we are seeing some fish taken through holes in the ice now up there, and that gets that whole ice fishing contingent of crazy people really excited. Still seeing some guys fishing the rivers for trout up there as well, and they seem to be doing pretty well also. Dropping down into New Hampshire, one thing that kind of stands out above those things is the party boat fishing has been really good. The guys are heading out doing some pollock fishing, and it's been really good. The great thing about pollock, for those of you diehards who want to be out on the boat in the wintertime, there's no season and no limits. So you can get out there and and really do some damage and fill the freezer as well. So that's something you may want to check out. Dropping over the border now into Massachusetts, let's check in with Kevin Huang from Surfland Bait and Tackle.
Hey guys, Happy New Year. Kevin from Surfland Bait and Tackle here. I want to wish everybody a Happy New Year 2025, and I hope everybody achieves their goals for the year, whether it be saltwater fishing, freshwater, PBs, and all that. And on to the report. Ice, there's not much around us that's safe. Most of the guys I know that are ice fishing right now are heading up north or out in the mountains out west. They've been finding some safe ice to fish on. But locally, not really, especially with that warm spell that we had in the rain. And deep sea fishing, it's been right before New Year's. One of the boats did really well. The other boat did okay. But it's still haddock, pollock, some jumbo, jigging. And fishing's been overall pretty good. It's been hit or miss though, depending on the trips. And freshwater, if you can find some open water, this time of the year I would definitely try for some trout, or like if you can get live bait, shiners, if you can find some open pockets of water, you can definitely find some fish, freshwater fishing with some live bait. Well, Happy New Year guys. See you next time.
Now we'll drop down into Boston Harbor. We'll check in with Danny Parma from Fish Bucket Sport Fishing.
Thanks, Dave. Just checking in. It's been a little slow this week with the holidays and the new year, but looking to get some fishing in very soon. I did see that the guys over at the American Classic in Lynn, the party boat, did really well with the haddock. They went out last week and did very well. I think they got a trip going on this Sunday. So if you're looking to get out there, that's a good trip. The guys at Eastman's are, rocking and rolling. That's another good trip. The weather's too nice to really do any ice fishing, so hopefully it gets colder and we can get out there on the hard water. Happy New Year, everyone. Remember, New Year, get some new gear. Stop in at your local tackle shop. Rods, reels, plugs, you name it. You could use some more. So that's what I got for you. Stay safe. I'll catch you on the next one.
For more than 20 years, anglers everywhere have come to know one thing: that nothing says no to fish bites.
Now, as I talked about in the news portion of this, Wachusett Reservoir has closed, but there are a few options for people who want to fish the Wachusett River watershed and still have a shot at a lake trout. Probably the best one is the Stillwater River. You're going to want to go sort of northwest of the railroad bridge, or above the railroad bridge. And there's some deep water in there, especially just inside the bridge. And I've taken a few lakers there in the quote-unquote off-season over the years. So that's one option. The other one is Lancaster Mill Pond, which is below the dam. And enough fish sort of come down that spillway, especially as a little fry or whatever, and then kind of grow up in the mill pond, that you can get some good lake trout out of there too. So that's two options for you guys that just don't want to quit. Wachusett closed with a bang. We saw some really nice fish come out of the reservoir over the last week. I know Jamie Price was out there doing some damage. Got some pics of her here. Kind of sad to see it closing, but the rules are what the rules are. Heading further west now, we are seeing more and more ice fishing happening now in the Massachusetts waters, and we're going to call in our, one of our old friends here, Roy Lytle, hardcore ice fisherman and savant level angler overall. Here he is.
Hey Dave, Roy Lytle here with Western Mass Report. Happy New Year to yourself, all your readers, and everyone at the Fisherman magazine. We got an early Christmas present this year. We've actually had ice before Christmas for a couple weeks out here in Western Mass and in the Berkshires, mostly the northern western part of the state. Though we have had a few warm days and a lot of rain, this Arctic blast that's coming down should freeze things back up. I'm going to say that a lot of the small waters probably this weekend are a safe bet in that northwestern part of the state. Other than that, some of the big lakes, I'd probably be a little bit more careful. Some of those only had like 3 or 4 inches before the warm up. So my guessing is that ice is no good or the edges are gone. So give it about another week and everything should be back to normal. Fishing has been phenomenal, as you know how it is, early ice. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that this cold continues and we have a wonderful ice season this year, and I'll be back with you guys next week for a better intel report on how the fishing's going. Peace.
Now heading out toward the Cape, that's where most of the Massachusetts action has been, especially if you're a rod and reel guy. The trout fishing's been good from Plymouth all the way out. You got all the popular ponds putting out fish. You got Fearing Pond, you've got Long and Little, you've got Hamblin, you've got Peters, you've got Spectacle, you've got Sheep. You can go on the DFW website and check the other ponds that have been stocked recently out there. Fishing on Cape Cod is really good in the wintertime because the ponds seldom freeze over, so you've always got those open water options. Other things that are going on, we're seeing the jerkbait bite for largemouth bass still going strong. We're seeing some really nice pickerel coming out of there, which, pickerel get a bad rap. I think they're fun to catch. I mean, they don't fight that hard, but they hit hard and they get big, and they are gnarly. Here's a good one here caught by Ian McPartland from the Goose. So you got that going on. And we're also hearing about good smallmouth fishing in some of the Plymouth and Cape ponds that have smallmouth in them. A lot of those fish are being taken with spy baits and Ned rigs and blade baits and things like that. But the bite's been pretty solid. Heading back toward the canal, the only saltwater news I have from Massachusetts is still a few mackerel around the east end of the canal. So you can sort of take on that traditional winter bite and do a little food fishing. But that's pretty much it. That's what I have for you guys in Massachusetts this week. Now, as we sort of bid farewell to 2024, we also closed out a bunch of seasons. We closed out the tog season, we closed out the sea bass season, we closed out the porgy season, and it was going strong right up to the end of the year there. And we're going to see a lot fewer runs on the party boats now because they really can only target cod and pollock, but they are still going to make those runs. So you want to keep an eye on their social media when you want to hop aboard. But it's sort of a bittersweet moment when they close down all those bottom fisheries, because it really makes for an interesting beginning to the winter. And it seems like, especially the last several years when we've had these warmer winters, it could probably continue well into January. So that's over and done with for now. But we are seeing some good striped bass activity in some of the Rhode Island backwaters, whether you're up inside Narragansett Bay, just fishing up into some of the tributaries, or you're fishing the salt ponds or any of the tidal rivers. It's a little bit of a hunt and peck thing. You're going to have to poke around a little bit to find the fish, but by all indications, there's a lot of bigger fish around this year. So a lot more 25 to 35 inch fish than what we typically see, which is a great thing. Find those deep holes, fish with paddle tails, and you get a good chance to find some decent fish. And then the other thing that's going on is Rhode Island, the Rhode Island freshwater fishing sort of gets overlooked. Great bass fishing in Rhode Island. We're seeing a lot of jerkbait bass being caught. And the state does a great job with trout stocking, which they gave us like a bonus stocking on Veterans Day, and they do some winter stocking as well. So you want to check the Rhode Island Fisheries website to get the details on what was most recently stocked. But from what I'm seeing, a lot of nice trout being taken right now. And for a little bit more on some of these fisheries, let's check in now with Jeff Sullivan.
What's going on, guys? What's going on, Dave? We're back with the 2025 season. I cannot believe it. It seems like every year you blink an eye and it's already the next season. But with that being said, the 2024 season was one for the books. A lot to be thankful for, a lot to be grateful for, a lot of fish, a lot of memories, a lot of fun. It's just incredible. It was definitely one for the books for sure. But yeah, we welcome in the new season of 2025, and I've been throwing swim baits, and I've been waiting for the ice to thaw out, and it has. We've got a nice little weather window there. I've been throwing big swim baits at fish and seeing if they will react to it. I had them for the first week of December, and I kind of lost track of them because I turned my head to a little bit of trout, try to keep my eye on perch, see what they're doing, and then I went back to largemouth to see how that's going, and I kind of lost track of them. But with that being said, as long as we still have this little bit of a window with no ice, I'm going to be throwing swim baits. That's what I'm doing right now. It's unseasonable for me because I usually stop largemouth fishing around Thanksgiving and switch my gears to, cold weather fish, lack of the term of cold weather fish, and, have fun with that until, pre-spawn and the normal status quo happens in the spring. But yeah, Dave, I just been throwing this Berkeley Nessie around. I suggest you guys pick one up and just chuck it around. It's a fun bait to use. It's kind of like the dock in freshwater, if you think about it. If you're not familiar with glide baits, it has that cadence to it. You can walk it, you can really pause it, you can sink it. Yeah, it's a slow sink, so it's made with durable soft plastic. It's very durable. Mike Iaconelli actually designed this with Berkeley. They made a gem with this thing. It's got a nice bristle tail to it, durable. It's got a locking bracket inside and a slot for your little, for the other part of the treble hook to sit in. Very durable bait, very realistic. This is one of my favorite baits to throw. So I just been throwing it around and hoping I can get a a January giant as I'm chasing ghost here, Dave. And hey, we'll see what happens, right? But hey, till then, I'll see you next week, guys. Later.
And now we're going to check in with John Lee. I know he's wrapped up his season for the year, but he's going to check in periodically throughout the winter. He does a lot of work, on and around the water, working on the pilot boat and doing some other things. So he always has some interesting angles. And here's his first report of 2025.
Hey guys, John Lee, Point Judith, Rhode Island. I didn't get out at all this week. There were a couple of days right between Christmas and New Year's that were really nice, almost greasy calm. I didn't go. Other guys went. Seemed like the fishing was okay. Some cod, still some tautog out in the deep, a couple of sea bass. I'm basically done. I'm pulling the boat maybe January 10th. Throw the boat in the backyard, start to work on the boat, go through my fishing gear. I don't really fish a whole lot in the wintertime. I don't go trout fishing. I don't go ice fishing. I don't go down to Island Murata. I pretty much hunker down and reset and read a little bit, hang out. I'm running the pilot boat a fair amount. We had a very busy December, so I'm on the pilot boat every day. Today was pretty exciting, had a 45 knot blow, so screaming wind coming down, Block Island Sound, super choppy. So that keeps me sharp, keeps my brain locked in on the boat scene. So anyway, hope all is well. And I'll get up with everyone soon. Talk to you.
And then heading out along South County, really no saltwater action to talk about. The only thing is just, a few of those striped bass spots up inside some of the salt ponds. And then, of course, there's a few ponds along that same stretch that are stocked with trout that are producing fish. And that's what I have for you guys in Rhode Island this week. Crossing over into Connecticut, the most interesting thing that's going on right now, I heard from Mike Wade over at Watch Hill Outfitters, which is actually in Rhode Island. But he said some of his guys have been getting striped bass in and around the Thames River, and seems like a decent number of fish. Now, you always have to take reports like this with a grain of salt, because what's considered to be decent in December and January doesn't quite line up with what might be decent in September or October. So you may have to work a little bit harder to get these fish, but one thing that's sort of an indicator of what's really going on is that many of these fish have been taken on topwater, which is very unusual for this time of the year. Mike said the guys are seeing a lot of bait around, and so whether you're up in the Thames or you're sort of on the adjacent areas or up into some of the other little tidal creeks in that area, there seems to be a good number of striped bass around, which may mean, let's hope, that the Thames River is seeing a resurgence of its holdover fishery like we used to see in the 2000s, which was epic. So that's one thing. From there out to the Connecticut River, for the most part, it's just freshwater fishing. We've seen some guys doing some largemouth fishing and a lot of guys trout fishing. Connecticut also does a phenomenal job with their trout stocking and keeps the rods bent all winter long. As we get up to the Connecticut River, I think of the Connecticut River as one of the best freshwater and saltwater fisheries we have in New England. It's a very diverse fishery. You've got everything from striped bass to northern pike to pickerel to largemouth bass to all different species of panfish. You've got carp. So there's a lot of different things that you can target inside the river. There's a lot of different areas you can do it in with all the little coves like Chapman Pond and Hamburg Cove and all these tributaries that come in like the Salmon River and stuff like that. It's just an incredible fishery that's incredibly diverse. And we're seeing guys doing a lot of different types of damage up in there, whether they're pan fishing. We've seen a few guys doing some pike fishing as well, and a lot of guys are crossing their fingers and toes for ice. And for a little bit more on some of the things that are happening up inside the Connecticut River Valley, let's check in now with Rowan Lytle.
Hey everybody, so with a little warm up behind us and some rain, the Connecticut River has been high and most of the areas have been fully open water for a little while now. It looks like it should remain that way for a bit, but we're definitely settling into a cold spell, and it looks like this one might be long enough to freeze up the coves. So fingers crossed, we might be approaching our short little ice season here on the Connecticut River. Now, anybody's bet whether that forecast holds, but it does show some promise. So if you want to get into some open water fishing, target pike, perch, things like that in the backwaters in the next few days, and then get ready for at least some skim ice to form on those coves. Hopefully good hard ice that we can actually get on top of finally.
Now we're going to head back down toward the mouth, and we'll check in with Captain Mike Roy from Reelcast Charters.
Hey everybody, for this week's fishing report, I know that they are catching holdover stripers in the rivers. They're in their winter holdover locations. They're going to be getting pretty lethargic. They're kind of hibernating this time of year. There is some freshwater options, or I should say hard water. There's ice in the northern part of the state. I know some people have been ice fishing, doing pretty well with that. This time of year, I'm going through my gear, fixing some of my tackle, getting ready for next season. I just printed out all my tide charts for next year and highlighted the full and new moon dates. So I'm booking trips and getting ready for planning for the 2025 season. That's all I have for you. Have a happy new year.
And now we're going to check in quick at Black Hall Outfitters. Here's Matt Stone.
How's it going, everyone? Matt from Black Hall Outfitters in Westbrook here with this week's fishing report. We are into winter. Happy New Year to everybody. 2025 is going to start with holdover stripers, low and slow with soft plastics. You got to find them. Really tough to find them this time of year, but once you do, they're sometimes willing to bite. It's kind of the game you play if you're going for holdover stripers. Other than that, your best bet is trout, salmon if you go to any of the stocked rivers locally. Trout bite's been good, nothing crazy. Inline spoons, small rapalas, things like that, jointed minnows, all the normal stuff. The old Berkeley pinkworm always comes through. Other than that, probably some panfish kicking around. Looking like we might get some ice here towards the second half of the month. So that'll be interesting to see if we get our first decent ice season here in southern Connecticut, in 3 years or so. Happy New Year to everyone. Hope you start off 2025 right.
Now, the other thing that gets a lot of attention in the wintertime in Connecticut is the Farmington River. As we all know, I call it the crown jewel of the Connecticut fishery. Great trout fishing up there. The bite's been pretty good from what I've been hearing. And let's check in now with Derrick Kirkpatrick from Connecticut Fish Guides for some more details.
Hey, Dave. Joey Takeman and myself are on the Farmington today. As you can see, it's a beautiful day. We have some midges that are in the air, some bugs that are in the drift, but this is all going to change. So across the state, we're going to get some more rain, and then we're going to drop into kind of normal winter weather, and that's really going to kind of lock things up. It's going to slow the trout's metabolisms down, and they're going to move into softer water. So today, Joey and I, we're doing a little filming in this somewhat medium-paced water here. And you can see in the background here, it moves pretty quick, and the fish will be pushed up close to adjacent to that fast water. Well, when it gets really cold, they're going to pull back into the much slower water, where you can see there's a lot of bubbles behind us here, but you can see some of the bubbles move slower than the others out in the middle. And the fish are really going to key in on bugs that are in the slower water because they don't have to work nearly as hard.
Just more efficient for them to feed.
Right, there's less energy that they have to
spend.
Yeah, so like right now, these midges coming up, they're size 20s, 18s.
Yeah, it's actually fairly good sized midges, which is good.
Yeah, so that'll get the fish up and feeding, and expect more of that when it gets really cold. So we have had a good Hendrickson nymph bite on the Farmington, and that should replicate throughout the state where those bugs are present.
Yeah.
But we're kind of switching speeds to where your true wintertime, deep of wintertime stuff's going to be working, like your midges and case caddis and some of that stuff. So on the Farmington, you're going to fish more middle of the day because the fish aren't really going to get up and going until that temperature spike really hits. So like on days like today where we have a clear sky, that sun is going to penetrate the water and spike the water a few degrees, and that's really going to get the bugs moving and the fish feeding.
Yep.
So on your coldest of days in the middle of winter, the water may not get up to a temperature where the fish feel comfortable feeding until the latter part of the day, maybe 2 p.m. or 1 p.m. and then the feed might kick off then.
Yeah, that movement is the whole key. That direction, that positive movement at temperature. Even if you had a cold night and it only may move a few degrees is a lot better than it going the other way.
Yeah, if you get a negative temp spike, that's pretty much going to shut things down.
No good.
So, yeah, if you're headed out, we have a few days of really high winds. Those probably aren't going to be the most ideal days to fish. Look for the wind to kind of settle in and the weather to get a little more consistent. Yeah. And that's when the fish are going to settle in, but the fishing is going to be different than it has been the past few days. So that's what we got for you on the Farmington River in the state of Connecticut and trout fishing. Back to you, Dave.
Now, there was some ice fishing going on in Connecticut waters this week as well. Most of it more toward the northwest corner of the state. We saw some nice largemouth coming out. We saw some guys getting some trout. I have not heard of a pike through the ice yet, but I wouldn't be surprised if it happened. So we've got a little bit of that going on, and then just kind of heading straight down from there to the Housatonic River. The striper bite's been exceptional. We've seen a lot of nice fish coming out of there. Nighttime has been better for big fish. Daytime's been a little bit better for numbers. And for a little bit more on that, let's check in now with Max Finch from Fisherman's World.
Hey everyone, Max here from Fisherman's World with another local fishing report. This past week with the mild weather, a lot of anglers set out for the Housatonic River. They cashed in a lot of good striped bass. I've seen fish over 40 inches this past week on soft plastic and SP minnows. Upriver near Sullivan's Island, it had a really good bite on the SPs, and then fishing down towards the Merritt Bridge also for guys on the boats. Remember, you do need a freshwater license to fish past the Merritt Bridge. You can throw stuff like GT's eels, GT Gravity Tackles paddle tails, sluggos. The finesse fish are all great lures to use this time of year. Remember to keep it between like 3/8, half ounce, 3/4 at the heaviest when you really got, a good flow on the river and they release the dam. We heard some more whispers of some herrings around, so that's a good sign. Hopefully it gets better moving into January. Other than that, that's what's going on this past week. I hope everybody had a good Christmas and has a happy New Year. Thanks and good luck.
That's what I have for you guys in the reports this week. Hopefully it's going to inspire you to get out there and catch your first fish of 2025. If you do, please send us a photo. We'd love to see it. You can send it to danderson@thefisherman.com. And that's what I have for you guys this week. Hopefully we'll see you guys next week. Appreciate you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.